What's poppin' YouTube? It's the one and only MatthiasRex back again with another video for y'all. And today, you know we gotta talk about that new, you already know, Trigun Stampede, a new series out by Orange Studio, an animation studio from Japan that specializes in 3D and CG animation. They're taking the Trigun franchise, the Trigun IP, and doing a bit of a new spin on it. I've been seeing some opinions about it online. I myself had some first impressions and opinions when, it had come to my attention that we're getting a new Trigun, right? So I wanted to kind of do a deep dive and, talk about how I felt about the first episode of Trigun Stampede. All right, so first impressions, I hated the new look, bruh. Look, hated might be a strong word, but I really was not messing with the new character designs when I had first seen them. I felt the series had experienced the Valorantfication effect, where all the new art direction and costume design was built around this new hip K-pop streetwear fusion type beat. I don't know, I wasn't really jacking with. And I say Valorantfication, not to say that Valorant was, the first game to do this, but more to get you in on what I'm talking about, right? I feel like Valorant has a very distinct artistic style and direction when it comes to character design, and that is definitely apparent, and very prominent there, as well as in many other video games and other IPs that have come out. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not something I hate at all. As a matter of fact, a lot of new designs that kind of take up that style of the new age kind of cyberpunk streetwear, I actually mess with. I just felt like Trigun, though, had really lost the Western and gritty kind of style, that old school badass kind of look, and that was originally what threw me off. Now, upon finding out that this is actually a remake of Trigun and not a continuation on the original series, I was like, all right, I'm gonna let it breathe. I'm gonna give the new series some more time to have a life of its own and have its own visual style and things like that. So I was also really intrigued by the way they decided to start the show off this time, kind of touching on Vash and Knives' otherworldly origin. And by the way, did y'all catch that? Ew. Now, people that have watched Trigun already know that this wasn't touched on until about the second half of the original anime. I think this way of starting off the series anew and, taking a different direction than the original anime had gone is really solidifying it as a brand new, fresh take on the Trigun IP and series. For example, maybe it'll focus more on, Vash and Knives' story and where they came from, what their place is in this entire seemingly conflict that Knives has with humanity. If you watch the original Trigun series, I won't spoil too much, but you already have an idea of what that's about and where he's kind of coming from as a character. So to see that be put forth immediately once the series begins is interesting. Maybe they'll focus more on that and kind of dive deeper into that lore. I hate to really compare IPs, but I got a big Borderlands vibe from the show when I was watching it. Seeing Meryl and her boss, or co-worker I should say, Roberto, in the wasteland driving in like that vehicle through the desert and everything. It had that very grungy, dirty wastelander, Mad Max kind of vibe to it, but it was still bright and had color and emotion and character in it. Now, I know a lot of people are not rocking with the new look of Trigun, right? And let me kind of talk about some reasons why that might be. I feel like the art style alone already drastically kind of changes Vash's vibe and, the overall tone of the show. The first episode of the original anime portrays Vash as a badass. You don't even know who he is. You get the idea like, all right, this guy might be the main character, and, his ops just pull up on him crazy. Kind of reminds me of that one scene in The Godfather when Sonny gets lit up and dies. Or it's like that one scene at the end of the first episode of JoJo Part 2 when Joseph just goes buck. Honestly, I was not prepared for that scene. But yeah, he goes to take on all these bad guys by himself, and the style and aesthetic was just there. It was so heavy and prominent throughout the entire show. You had the amazing banger opening, HT by Tsuneo Imahori, for those that don't know, get in tune. You had the really cool ripping guitar on the eye catchers before commercial break. something that not a lot of anime these days really have too much, as a lot of it's being serialized for web and for watching on streaming services where there aren't really commercial breaks and things like that. But the show presents itself as badass before whimsical. We get to see Vash the Stampede as the 60 billion double dollar bandit. By the way, they really dropped the price on my man Bounty. Is he not like that anymore?
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Vash comes off as a super mysterious character and you're really like, yo, who is this dude? And then later on, we kind of get introduced to his more clowny side, you know, the jokes, Mimi Vash, you know, the Vash we all came to love. This time around, Vash starts off as more comical, you know, you don't get to see the badass in him come out until later on when it's needed, right? His character is originally portrayed as a goofball. Once you meet him, he's hanging upside down, he's like laughing, acting all crazy, carrying on and whatnot. A lot of people had some crazy things to say about his design.
And I started thinking to myself, man, what did he do to make them niggas that mad?
And I get it. I wasn't a huge fan of his design at first either. But again, I really feel like we need to give this show a chance to really just be its own thing. It's not the same as it was back in the 90s. You know, since then, it's 2023. And there have been over 2 decades worth of new content to pull from for inspiration. New anime, new sci-fi content, new western content, new western sci-fi content that can be used to really influence the look and the feeling of this new show. And I feel like that's really gonna come about in the way we see the characters, the situations, and the way the plot kind of plays out for Vash, for Knives, and the other characters. Look, I gotta say this, bro, the captain, my son was swagged out, boy. Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be Oakley shades and berets all 2023, y'all already know. The reception for this show is mostly positive. People seem to be really excited to see a brand new Vash and to see a new take on the original Trigun story and characters and world. A lot of people, a lot of fans, new and old, really like the show. Something similar to what you should really do to this video right about now. The show still made me laugh. I enjoyed the humor even though it was presented differently. Vash is still Vash and, you know, he's still a goofball and makes mistakes, forgets to load his gun before getting into combat or draws. And it's still really funny and I enjoy it, and I like the way that the characters interact with each other. I will say though, like I said, it is presented kind of differently. I think 2D and 3D have different ways of really bringing out and bringing forward that funny element. 2D artwork allows for more comical depictions of a 3D space because it's flat, you know, and it's drawn. There are certain things that, you know, will allow to happen just because it's like, oh, we already know that this is a drawn piece of artwork, right? This isn't something that we're thinking in our heads is, all right, like happening in a more real environment. So I think that's probably why, you know, the tone of the show, just beyond the art direction and, you know, the new style that they're kind of taking on, is going to be a little bit different because the comedy itself is going to be different. It's not going to be exactly the same. Overall though, I think I kind of like the new direction. I'm really interested to see, you know, the new characters, the way that the old characters that we know and love are going to interact in this brand new take on the Trigun world. I'd love to see the new villains that they have, like everybody. A big draw for me when I originally watched Trigun were the outside characters around Vash, right? The funny, you know, super comical villains that insinuated that they were Vash the Stampede and not this guy.
Are you implying that I am not Vash the Stampede?
The supporting characters that Vash meets that helps him along his way in the different towns, I think those will really be interesting to see, not only just in the way that they drive the story along. I already think they've got something of a solid base that they're working with. It's not as typically straightforward Western or electric guitar rock and roll as we might expect, but I think now that they're taking from like a more cyberpunk kind of artistic direction with, you know, the joggers and the sneakers and the huge jackets. I mean, we haven't seen that one before, right? I'm really curious to see how the plot plays out as well, now that they've introduced the biggest story element in Trigun that we didn't get to learn again until the second half of that original series, right? Like, how will Knives and Vash's relationship play out now that we know Knives exists from the jump? How will they explain where he got his bounty from? Well, we learn more about this spacefaring age that Roberto talks about. It seems like a lot of the characters already have knowledge of these things that are, you know, again, were to us when we watched it originally, we had no idea about. So how will that affect the story? Where the fuck is Millie? I'm interested to see how Orange is gonna take the Trigun story and the Trigun IP and what they're gonna do with it. You know, how they're gonna meld it, how they're gonna mold it to make it their own new show. I think this new series is honestly gonna be pretty dope. I mean, you might love it, you might hate it, and that's okay. You know, it's something that's totally different, it's totally fresh, and I think for that reason, me at least, I'm willing to give it a chance, and I feel like a lot of other Trigun fans should as well. That's all I gotta say about Trigun Stampede, y'all. I think it's gonna be dope. Let's stick with it, let's see where it goes. What do you think about Trigun Stampede? Let me know in the comments. Have you watched the original Trigun series? Have you read the manga? Let me know where you think it's gonna go. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it'll be bad. We'll just have to see. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, yo. Like, don't be a stranger, just vibe. Like, leave a like, subscribe, come back for more. Let's chat about Trigun, let's chat about manga in the comments. Like, I really want to hear you guys' thoughts and see what you're feeling with this. You know, maybe you hate it, right? Maybe you love it and you think it's gonna be amazing. What have you heard online? Drop in the comments below. Anyways, I'm gonna catch y'all later. It's been swell. Peace.